Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Cindy Daychuk with Queen Bee Creations, and we have a little bit of a thrift flip video. We're going to do 4 different projects, sort of for outdoors or staging florals, or, well, actually it's a bit of a mishmash, so just ignore all that. Use them wherever. But what I wanted to do was I get people that say, look, I have white paint, I have black paint, I maybe have one other color. You know, you have a whole shop, so you're often painting things in all kinds of different colors. And know that I just show you different colors to give you options. But what I decided to do is that I'm taking one color, which is just a soft kind of farmhouse green. Can't tell you the name of the paint yet. It'll be launching soon. But it's kind of in a soft, herby, sort of timey green kind of color. And I thought it would kind of tie in with each of the projects. So that's the main color. I may use a little white, a little black. That's about it. Okay, so I just want to give you an idea of how you can use it on different types of projects without having to have a whole arsenal of color. The first project that we have, though, is this pedestal tray. Now, I love the rusty look of it, and this is probably the one that inspired the color choice because it has little flecks of that kind of soft green underneath it. However, this baby has a flaw. So I got this for, I wrote the prices down for a change. The pedestal, $3. The reason it was $3 is, where is it? Oh, this big honkin' crack all the way around here. This is separating. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see. It's separating. So that's kind of one of those things that glue isn't necessarily going to fix in terms of strengthening it. So what I am going to do is I'm going to take air-dried clay and I'm going to take a mold. And I went through all my different trimmings molds. This one's really old, but IOD has 4 different trimmings molds out there, so don't despair. This one seems to be pretty much the right height, width, I mean, you know, whatever you want to call it. So I am actually going to do this multiple times so I get it going all the way around. And what's going to happen is, because I'm going to glue the back of it onto my piece, it's going to serve to strengthen and bolster up that kind of broken area. And I need to do this first before the other projects because I want to get it kind of dried, give it overnight to do that before I would then be looking at painting it out. You can kind of paint it while the clay is still damp, but you just have to be a little bit careful that you're not pushing any of the details out of your clay. So I just tend to leave it overnight. I just find that easier for me. And usually, like in a project like this, I've got a bunch of other things on the go, so it's not a real hardship for me. If you're super impatient, though, you can paint it when it's wet, just go careful, right? So all I'm doing is I'm pushing the clay down into my mold, and then I will flip it over to release it. I will put a tacky glue. Usually I use a wood glue. I'm kind of going, which is way over on the shelf. And then because I'm on a vertical surface, I'm going to flip this over and glue it this way so that if it slides, it's going to just slide flat and flush with the edge. Otherwise, I would tape it on. And I may still tape it a little bit to the base, but really it's going to kind of hold in place between my glue and gravity working for me in this instance. Otherwise, tape it to hold it and keep it from sliding down. So once this is filled, I just turn it upside down and slowly peel it out. Because this is a really wide one, I'm not kind of bothering with dusting the mold with cornstarch because it's coming out just fine. But if it started to stick, or if it was smaller, more delicate, I would certainly do it with cornstarch. And then I just take a little rubber spatula. This is like a silicone glue stick, and I just use that to spread out my glue. I like getting the glue edge to edge, edge to edge. So nice smooth coverage, but I like getting it right out to those edges to make sure that they're gonna stick and not kind of, as they're drying, curl away from the edge. I have my pedestal upside down, which is going to allow me to, right now, obviously avoid taping. I'm able to put this around the edge, matching it up. But what I do have is I have it drying on some plastic wrap, so that if any of my glue is kind of adhering or sticking onto the plastic, I'll be able to pull the plastic away. If I just had it down on paper, then the paper would stick. So in this case, because that edge of my mold, right, is in contact with the base, I definitely want to have that plastic wrap down, just to avoid having any of it sticking onto the paper. So I've done 3 of those. 2 more I think is going to do it, and then we can just push this off to the side to dry. Next up in the lineup is this little tote. What I want to do is I want to take all of the hardware off of it first, so that I don't have to be painting around anything. I can just paint. I will be adding the hardware back on, but we're going to take the handle off. And what I am going to do is I'm going to spray paint all of the hardware and screws matte black, just because I think it'll be a more fun contrast to the green. If I put it on, I think it's a little too harsh, then I'll soften it down. But rather than just these kind of stainless steel looking pieces, I'm gonna go with the black instead. So I'm gonna paint this solid coverage. The little paint that I'm using here is, it's got a built-in sealer. You know, not a horrendously strong one, but it seals itself. So you can opt in your projects to be able to add an additional sealer for extra durability, or for a lot of your projects, it's more than sufficient, which allows you to just kind of move on to other things. So we are going to get this painted inside and out in our lovely, soft kind of farmhouse green. Sorry, there's a bunch of it on the lid, so I'm just scraping that across. And look how nice. So just adding paint, and as much as I'm using this color, guys, even if you just have one color, any color is going to freshen this up. It's going to right away make it look cleaner, brighter, newer. So no worries with whatever color you happen to have. I'm just in kind of a green frame of mind. Usually I gravitate toward blue, so I'm working on different here. But I'm going to get this painted, I'm going to get those sprayed, and then we'll see what we want to do to just zhuzh up the outside a little bit. This next one, super easy. Not everything has to be difficult. I'm going to paint the wood handle. I'm leaving all of the brass, but I'm just going to paint the wood handle in the green. We'll do a little more, but for now, it's just about getting the green. One of the things too that's nice, because I'm still testing this paint out, and just, you know, so I'm in a better position to advise customers about it when it's fully launched into the store, is that's a 4-ounce container. So I'm going to be doing 4 projects, and it's going to give me a much better idea of coverage. So as it stands right now, this little wood box, I only need one coat. It's got excellent coverage that way. And that was going over a raw, thirsty wood. So it went far from that perspective. I want to do a little distressing on that. So there's not really any point in doing a second coat. But certainly as well, sometimes, you know, if you've got raw wood, it just absorbs your paint like crazy. And you end up having to do multiple coats, even unexpectedly. Whereas that I didn't. And right now, I'm not going to be having to do any more than just one coat on this little wood handle as well, which is cool. Anything that one, saves paint, and two, because I'm not double coating, saves time, is a blessing. The other reason that you might want to, you know, if you're doing this for your home and you're doing a number of projects, then picking a color that sort of unifies all of your projects so that they can be used together in a vignette or, you know, out in a patio landscape or on your, you know, on your front porch or inside, I mean, whatever it happens to be, that one color can serve to kind of unify projects that are fairly individual or unique in and of themselves. You may tie other colors in with it, but just having even that little hint of that color is enough for them to seem like strategically they all went together. Okay, our fourth project, we have to do two things. One, I need to take off the hardware again. I'm going to remove the jar. One, because I can't paint in behind it. And I am going to want to do a little bit of painting with this. And I also don't want to have to worry about trying to paint around that piece of metal. So I'm going to remove it. This is also raw wood. And it has a little bit of a stencil on there that says "Living the Dream" in black, but it's very difficult to see and to read. So I'm going to get this painted first, and then we're going to see what we're going to do with it. But to paint this one, because it's got kind of a barn board look and feel to it. These are really long screws. Barn board look and feel to it. I want to, I don't want to paint it solid. I think that that's going to work against it. So there's my little milk bottle that I can clean. That I can get, I'm going to spray paint this, but I think I'll probably not do it in a black. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take this and just kind of lightly give this a sand. And then instead of painting this all solid, I'm going to dry brush, and I'm going to use our little farmhouse green, and I'm going to use some white. So I'm just using Casement by Fusion, which also has a built-in sealer. So I'm going to dry brush both of those. And to do that, I'm just going to grab and use just a really old, rough, ratty chip brush. And dry brushing just means that when I put this into paint, I'm going to offload a lot of it onto, I'm just going to grab a paper plate so that the brush is not saturated with paint, and then I'm going to drag it. And because this wood is very rough, I should get kind of a textured sort of look to it. I'll come back when it's time for that, but I need to see if I can sand off a little bit of this. And because it's probably going to take some of the brown away, I have to see what that's going to look like and whether or not I need to, I'm going to have to sand the whole thing to get it kind of an even look, but then it's possible that I may have to restain it before I do my dry brushing. We'll see what happens with the sanding. Let me go do the messy stuff first. Okay, black came off fairly easily. I did roughly sand the rest just to kind of make it even, and I think there's enough color without my staining. So what I am going to do is take my Casement first to do my dry brushing. So I'm just going to put some on my plate here, and I don't need a lot of paint. I can add more later. And I'm just going to dip my brush in and get a little bit of paint on, and then I'm going to kind of drag it over here. And then I am going to just simply drag my brush. And because I have a rough texture here, because I don't have a lot of paint, it's going to kind of drag and create that uneven surface, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to do the whole thing with the white, and then I'm going to do exactly the same process, because this is going to dry very quickly because there's so little paint on it. Then I'm going to do exactly the same process with the green. So I'm just layering the two colors on. To be able to get a little bit of a brighter look, but still playing up that barn board look and feel to it. As I'm adding my green, bear in mind that your brush, the highs that we caught with the white, is exactly the same spot that your brush is going to want to catch again with the green. We still want some of the white to show through a little bit. Where the green overlaps it, it just lets the green pop a little bit more. But what I am doing is I'm taking my brush sideways this time, predominantly, to kind of catch some of the wood in slightly different spots. So I'm focusing a little bit more on some of those joins in between, because my brush didn't hit that so much. So then I can still have some of the white showing through. So hopefully that makes sense. If you did this layer and you thought, oh, I lost too much of the white, go back and add a little bit of white. You can keep layering it until you have the look that you like. Now, because I'm doing the hardware in a matte black, I am going to stencil my design on in a black. So I have a flat stencil brush, and I'm going to offload much of my paint. Just want to make sure this is the right way around. And I'm going to just stencil my design. Quite honestly, my first pounces, it looked a little too juicy, a little too wet. So we'll see how it looks once I'm done, whether or not I had a little too much paint on my stencil brush. And that's the secret to getting your crisper lines, is not to go in too wet with your paint, to do multiple pounces if you need to, multiple layers to be able to build it up. Now you wouldn't necessarily remove your stencil between layers. You would just build it up as you go. But smaller is better. If it was a bigger surface, I could use a little bit of a swipe method, but because this is small little lettering and lines, I mean, I'm okay with my line section, but with my lettering, it would get a little too crazy to be able to get that to happen. So I use a combination of techniques, but you can never go wrong with the pouncing. This is one of my Jamie Ray vintage stencils. Whoops. And she's got a lot of different label stencils. This one was fairly, I was going to say, it wasn't like it was a face cream or perfumery. It was just fairly nondescript. And I thought that would go perfectly with it. I just need this to dry a little bit before I flip it over and do the same thing to the other side. Let's see if we can get a little sticker, a little transfer to stick on the front of this. It's kind of iffy sometimes with, usually metals I have no problem, but every so often you hit a surface where it just doesn't want to go on. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, and there we go. Just a little tiny sticker on the front just to add a little something. It really didn't need a lot, and you don't want to necessarily overkill these things. I'm just gonna see about adding this teeny tiny one, and then I will need to seal the stickers, the transfers, just to provide them with a little bit more durability, especially if, you know, this is gonna go out on somebody's porch or something and be exposed to the weather. And as we're finishing up, just kind of slowly lift it to see if there's pieces that haven't rubbed off yet. There are just a couple of little letters which we wouldn't have noticed, but and that one came off just fine. So again, with this, we're gonna want to seal over top of this one, just to give that floral a little bit of protection. Now that this has had overnight to dry, we get to paint this out. And again, in keeping with our theme that we are keeping the colors to a minimum here, I am going to paint the trim and the inside of our tray in our kind of time-colored paint here. And we want to give this a good coat and let it dry. So with the rim, I will stipple it in so that we get into all of the details on the piece. And then the inside, we can just paint a nice smooth coat when we get to it. But we're just gonna wanna make sure that we get all that white covered, but look how lovely that is. So we're gonna get a paint coat on this, and then come back. I have one more piece to it that I may wanna do, and the rest of the pieces are all ready to have the hardware reinstalled. So while this is drying, I'll take care of that, and everything's almost all done. Now you can see, so from the bottom, see, look, this was the original color of it before they did this sort of rust finish on it, and that's just bang on. Who knew? Who knew? Okay, next thing I want to do, to really bring out the patterning in here, I want to take white wax, so I'm just using a chip brush, and I'm going to kind of push it down into all those little details. And then I'm going to take a lint-free rag and I'm going to wipe it back. So we get all that beautiful detail showing, but we don't have that stark green. I've already done the bottom. I'll do the same on the top. And then I have one other step after that. Just a little thing. So we'll be back. Okay, the last piece that I want to do on this is, this looks a little too pristine for the base. So I have poured out here a little bit of cinnamon. And I'm just going to, my wax is still wet, so the cinnamon is going to adhere to it. And I'm just going to take a dry brush and I'm just going to add cinnamon in a couple of spots, just so that it ages it out, right? And you can see this seems to suit this more than just the bright finish suits this. So I'm just going to continue to add bits of it here and there, wipe the excess away, and then this is done. I'll add a little bit in the creases in here too, just for good measure. Let's take a look at our finished projects. Now, the idea behind this, certainly we're thrift flipping, so how to be able to fix up and revamp some thrifted items. But more than anything else, I wanted to as well show you with limited paints, So I used our Time color, our white, and black. So I just used the three paints, primarily the black and the white just as little accent colors. It was all about just using that one green color and how you can create some different looks. How can you use that color to be able to tie in your different looks, and how to be able to make over some of these items very quickly. So first we had this kind of little brass ladle, and I don't find these all the time in the thrift stores, but I do find them fairly frequently, and I usually grab them because whether we're doing a Christmas tree in here and, you know, tying some Christmas ribbon around it, or a nest in there with some eggs for Easter. I mean, they lend themselves well to kind of creating a bunch of different decor looks, whether we leave them standing or whether we hang them. So this, we just simply painted the handle with our green color. Dead easy, very simple makeover. And just for the heck of it, we added a couple of little transfers. We could have left it alone. We could have stenciled on maybe a little logo or saying across here. We could have just simply tied a band of jute around it. So giving options. And again, then very easily it becomes a lovely little planter. So cute, so fun. Now, we had this little tote that we had thrifted, and we changed out the hardware, which was that bright silver, into the black because we stenciled on either side the black. And going from that plain rough wood to something like this, it becomes a super cute little summertime tote that easily you could fit a couple of beer bottles or some pop bottles in there. You've got the little opener for it, which I just realized I've put on upside down, so I have to change that around. Shows how much I drink beer. But I think actually this would be super cute on your summertime buffet table with maybe some condiments, so different hot sauces or things like that. You could put all of your cutlery in there. And again, just a quick little stencil and some paint. And this is made over super cute. Glad I noticed that, and I don't know why I didn't notice it earlier because the writing on it is upside down. So I'll fix it. Then we had that board with that glass jar. And so for this, because it was rough, we just did some dry brushing on it rather than fully painting it out. And we alternated with the green, that same sort of time green color, and white. We did a little transfer on it, but now we've got something super cute that we could put some blooms in, right? And be able to have something just really sweet, decorative, whether indoors or outdoors as well. The last item was this. Now, when I thrifted it, I knew that that band was cracked. And where is that crack? That crack is over here. So fixing that, there's no way that you could have just glued it. You really needed to reinforce it and support it. And that's where adding that clay band kicked in, because now it's much sturdier and it's going to stand up. I loved the base, that faux rusted finish. I adore. And it showed some of that green poking through, which was kind of what had me working with that green color to begin with. And I love the little trick of using the cinnamon to add a little bit of that rusted color back up here so the top didn't look totally pristine and new, while this looked kind of aged. And a little bit of that cinnamon, it works really well with wet waxed surfaces. So before the wax has dried, that you can apply it and gives just a little bit of, in this case, I just did a little dusting here and there to be able to age it out a little bit so that it's tied in a little bit better with the base. I had at one point debated whether or not I would add more of the green to the base, but I loved it too much to ruin it. So I left that as it is. Hopefully today, one, you see some transformations, but two, it also gives you an idea of how to be able to take you know, the limited paints that maybe you have on hand and be able to extend them out. All of these finishes, this is a 4-ounce jar of this paint. And let me just see how much of this is left in here. Oh, I've used a third of it. I still have 2/3 of that jar. So first of all, even painting on the raw wood, I got great coverage with that paint. So that's awesome. But it gives you an idea of, and you know, we painted solid, but just one coat on this because we were going to be doing the white wax. So your paint can also really extend very far depending upon how you're using it, and how judiciously. So even, you know, the small little 4-ounce size, I only used a third, not even a half. So let's be kind and say I used half. I used 2 ounces of paint for these 4 projects. So a lot of these makeovers can be done really quite economically. Biggest expense was a bit of the clay. And for this, doing the banding around, I would say I did a quarter of one of the packs of clay. So again, it added a lot of detail, not a lot of expense. Let me know what you think of these ones, guys. Let me know if it kind of inspires you to go out and take one little pot of paint and see what you can do with it. It's a fun exercise to see just the transformations of just that one color, but it also helps you if you're looking at doing it in your own home. It unifies all of the different pieces and all of the different looks because you've got a consistent element there. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one as always. Looking forward to your comments. And until next time, take care.